I feel like the world would be such a better place if everybody could just say exactly what the fuck they wanted to say, right?
Hmm.
And not in like a rude way, not being a dick,
Yeah.
not being an asshole, just more so like at the end of the day, we all people with like who cares? Like if everybody wasn't so sensitive and we could just talk freely, I think everybody would actually get along better, not worse.
It really comes down to, this is one of the things that I studied in prison, actually, in the program that I was in, is people are led to irrational thoughts based on their beliefs, right?
Mhm.
So if you take religion, for instance, different religions will literally kill each other, right? But if we took our beliefs out of it and just said, you know what? Everybody is entitled to their own thoughts and their own
Mhm.
feelings, nothing would bother us.
No, no, and it's also like why does it bother you? Is my thing, right? Why does it bother you? I live in West Hollywood, right?
So,
Okay, obviously West Hollywood has a lot of gay demographic, and usually when I say I live in West Hollywood, people crack a joke, which is fine. It's just boys joking, right?
yeah.
But the thing is like it who cares? Okay, I'm on the gym scene, so we're talking about gay bodybuilders.
Mhm.
They're just bodybuilders who like
Yeah.
yeah, they happen to like men, right? But like, there's no difference. Like, we sit there and talk about whatever. Like, we'll talk about anything, even politics. We'll talk about, and you'll be surprised. Like, not to get political, but like, there's a lot of gay men in West Hollywood who love Trump. Right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't think that was a thing, right?
Yeah.
But they're just guys. They're just regular guys. They just have different preferences. Why would that bother me as a man? Why the
Yeah.
fuck would that?
It's in prison, actually,
Mm-hmm.
it is, although it's very racially separated,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, if people don't have the same beliefs, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
just move in different directions. You don't
Yeah,
really see
yeah.
arguments. Like I had been around the TV room before, and actually where I was at in prison, the majority of the black inmates are big time Trump supporters. But then you
Yeah.
have some random like white, typical like liberal anti-Trump guys.
Mm.
But they wouldn't argue about it.
Yeah.
They would say their piece and talk, and that was it. But like you do something on social media, man, I've lost followers over supporting Trump, which I
Wow.
don't care. I don't want those people to follow me anyway. It's just this is a
No.
very wild country that we live in now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what I always liked about you is that um you're very strong on your morals, right?
Mm.
But at the same time, you don't give a fuck. You don't take shit that seriously, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Either way, so my thing is let's say whether you're liberal, conservative, you don't have to make it like a thing, like me versus you. Like it's just not that deep. Like
Yeah.
we're all grown adults just trying to be happy in life, like literally. So and if we talked, I'll talk to my client. If we had a conversation and did not bring up religion or politics once, we always 99% of us we agree with like 90% of shit. Once we bring up these things, all of a sudden we disagree, and it's like it's only because now you're favoring one side just because you're part of that team and not
Hmm.
just thinking with your mind. But if you leave that out of it, bro, we all like let's be real. Most of us agree on most shit.
Yeah. But
That's
you won't
it's
get
funny how they
you
go.
won't get angry outside of religion and politics for the most part, right? Like if we're talking
Mhm.
about, oh, what do you want to have for a cheat meal? And I'm like, burger's the best. And you're like, no, pizza's the best. We're not going to start coming to blows over it. But once you start
No,
getting to politics, man, people get
people go
really, really,
crazy,
really aggressive.
bro. Even like this segment in particular. Well, I feel like to be honest, me and you, like our following, I don't think they give a fuck. They because we've grazed over politics before. I don't think our viewers really give a fuck. There's gonna
No,
be random people.
I checked out a bunch of your videos when I got home because Trevor was like a big fan of your podcast. And I look at it, I could kind of tell, and it's right what you said about bodybuilding. There's a lot of conservatives in bodybuilding. So we kind of know who we're talking to for the most
Yeah,
part, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. And then let's say even if you aren't conservative, you're pretty chill, pretty open minded. You're not gonna like get into a fight with a bodybuilder over
No,
that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know how we went on that rabbit hole in politics, but
it's
that was
the
good,
world we
man.
live in, man.
Yeah. But PJ, man, a long time, bro. Isn't it crazy how time works? I can I remember when you went away, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is really happening. I mean, you probably were thinking the same shit. Like, is this real life? This is really fucking
Yeah.
happening, man. You know, and then now you're on the other side of it, right?
It-
Every
I'm
everything else.
almost on the other side of it. It seems like they keep on giving me new surprises as I go along, but I'm through
Oh
the
boy.
worst of it at least.
Okay, good. So from my experiences watching people, when people go through traumatic life experiences, would you consider this a traumatic life experience in some way?
Absolutely. Yeah. Going to
Okay,
prison
yeah.
is
I would.
traumatic. Mm.
It's not to be taken lightly, right? It's not,
No.
But yeah, when people go through things like that, one of two things usually happen, right? Maybe it breaks them to a point and they're kind of like a little bit off afterwards,
Mm.
or it does the complete opposite, and it's almost like they went in and did ayahuasca, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, and they have this different way of thinking and appreciation and gratefulness. And from what I've been seeing, you seem to be the latter.
Sipping on that tea. Yeah, no, if I'm in one category, so we have I never thought I'd be starting anything with we have a phrase in prison, but the guys who become like institutionalized, we call them burnt. Like,
Yeah,
man, that guy's burnt, you know?
yeah,
So some of the guys that I would see and the way they would act, and I'd be like, man, there's no way I can leave acting like that.
yeah,
And like some of the other guys were like, nah, you don't have enough time to for that to happen to you. It's you got to be in at least like 4 or 5 years for that to start happening. So, you know, the time that I was there, the way that I looked at it, so I knew, right, as soon as I got in there, I learned about the First Step Act and what I could do to get out faster, right? So,
mhm,
First Step Act, for every 30 days that you complete programming, you get 15 days off your sentence. So I was
mhm,
like, I'm going to do as much programming as possible. So mathematically, I was like, I can be out of here in 2 years. So I could do
yeah,
anything for 2 years. So because of the way that I programmed the whole time, I really just treated it as an opportunity to be better.
school,
And I don't like I tell people I don't think that I was a bad guy when I went to prison. I actually think I was a good guy when I
mhm,
when I went to prison. But there are things about myself that I realized when I was in there I needed to change. I had a
mhm,
very, very big ego, and I didn't care. I told people I have a big ego, and I liked that about myself at the time, but I realized my ego got me into a lot of shit that had I just been more chill in certain situations and not demanded things be my way all the time, I could have
yeah, yeah,
avoided more headaches. So now I'm Trevor, my social media guy, says I'm like Gandhi now. I'm just very much at peace. Like I'm very
that's
happy to be home. Everything's a blessing to me. I might have lost a lot of stuff along the way, going in there, but I have my heart and I have my fiance who's my world, and I'm just happy, man. I'm very happy to be free and home.
that's dope. Things that you probably took for granted, which we all take all the good shit in life for granted,
Yeah.
until we see something else. So all the things you used to take for granted, I'm sure now it's like, oh my God, it's the best shit in the world, right?
Man,
So
the
mhm,
craziest because we love it, right? We love the gym, it's part of our life. But
mhm,
when we've been doing it for so long, it's just part of your day, right? Like it's like when you wake up, you brush your teeth. It's the same thing. You do it every day. When
mhm,
I got the gym taken away from me, I was so bummed out that there was no weights in prison. And
mhm,
so I figured out how to get into a routine with pillowcases and rocks and stuff. And I got so serious with it the whole entire time that I was gone that in my mind, I was like, man, I'm going to go crazy when I get back to the gym. And once I got back into the gym, man, I've been training like I have so many bad injuries and stuff. But I've been training like I'm training for the Olympia. Like
yeah,
my girl's
yeah.
like, yeah, you got to slow down. But I'm just so happy to be back in there. It's like I want to do everything.
Hmm. Oh yeah, that's like COVID. That was the 2020, right? I took a year off of bodybuilding, and I was contemplating, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this again, right? Um yeah, so one thing about me when it comes to getting in shape, I'm one of those people, West African genetics, right? So I'm one of those people. I can put on, I'll be 300 pounds with 2-3 meals with
Mhm.
2,500 calories. But on the latter end, when I'm trying to get in shape, I'm on 1,200 calories right now, right?
Mhm.
So it's so rough, and then I can't work, I can't function. I'm like, why am I doing this shit? So I really had to think about it. And then COVID happened, they closed the gyms, and I'm like, who cares? I'm not a bodybuilder anymore, bro. You after 3 days, you're like, I need something, I need a weight, and then you realize at that moment, I realized I thought I lifted weights because I loved the physical action. Then I'm like, at this point, I think it's so much more mental. I didn't care how I looked. I
Yeah.
wasn't in shape. I was chubby, but honestly, I didn't give a fuck. I'm like, I could be chubby. I'm not going. It's COVID. I'm not going anywhere. Who cares? That didn't bother me. It was literally the actually lifting weights. I did not care about my aesthetics, just lifting weights. And I was like, wow, we actually love this way more than we realize we do, man. You
It's
know?
literally my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
people are like, oh, it's not better than sex. And for the moment, right? In a
Yeah.
short moment, sex is amazing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not gonna be crying and brokenhearted if you don't have sex for a little while. For me, man, I hate the idea of not having the gym. I love to do it every day. So like when I was the guards, man, it'd be the middle of winter time. And I had like somebody had gotten me these long johns that they had, and I had found this scarf that I like wrapped around my face. And it wasn't getting too cold in Alabama, but we had some mornings where it was like 18 degrees, 15 degrees. And the guard's like, Braun, what are you doing?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, can I go out? Is the yard open? They're like, yeah, it's freezing cold. And I'm like, I can go out though, right? And they're like, you want to? And I'm like, man, this is my favorite thing to do. This is what's keeping me sane
Fuck it, yeah.
in here.
Man, you know what? I gotta agree with you. It's gonna sound super, it's gonna sound super gay, it's gonna sound gay as fuck. But if somebody told me, hey, you can have all the sex you want, or you can have sex, but you can never go to the gym again, versus you can't have sex, you can watch porn and jerk off and do all
Yep.
that, but you can work out. Man, I'm jerking off and working out.
Yeah. The porn makes it a lot easier though.
I'm
the,
definitely watching
the
it.
porn, I'm like, no, because I went the whole time with no sex. And there are guys in prison that like whack off in the showers, but to me that's nasty, bro. So I was like, I had no desire to be doing that with other guys around. So 2 years without it, you really stop thinking about it. At least I did. I wasn't thinking about it. I was like, man, I miss my girl, but it wasn't like sex, sex, sex. So when
Yeah.
I didn't have the gym, like the first few months when I was locked up in transit and couldn't come out of the cell, man, that time, like psychologically, after doing it for 30 years, I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like you start to get a little bit almost like stir crazy, you know?
Dude, that's it's not a fun feeling, man. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, yeah. With the funny part about sex is you only want to have sex because you're having sex. The more sex you have, at least for me, I think most people, the more sex you have, the more sex you want. But if you go a while without sex, you kind of just get adjusted. Listen, let's be real. Most men aren't having sex like that. Like the 10% of men are having all the sex, right? A lot of guys aren't really. Let's be real. Why do you think porn is so popular? Most guys have beaten
yeah.
off for years. You know.
I would say like I went through a phase in my early 20s, especially like once I started juicing after my 22nd birthday. There was a few years where psychologically I was like, I have to have sex with as many girls as possible. That was it.
Why? Why?
It was
Why?
just
Why did that happen
numbers.
to?
It was just numbers, right? And
Mhm.
then I would say somewhere around like 28 or 29, one day I was like, I don't want to do this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And I will say now at 43, my mindset is I want to make a baby. So it's
Okay.
different. So I have like my fiance and our sex is much different. It's, we've been together 6 years. So it's more intimate, connected, spiritual, sometimes just random as hell. It happens. But both of us, we love each other. We want to make a baby. So now it's like, my objective
different.
is completely different, you know?
You know what? It's so much better this way.
It
But
is.
you couldn't tell this to yourself at 22, because at some point in a man's life, you're gonna have this feeling that you want to fuck every girl in the world, and
Yep.
you have to get as why do it must be a status thing? Who the fuck knows? But it's like ingrained, and the test makes it even stronger. And I feel so silly. I'm only 31, but I still feel so silly looking back and be like, I I dealt with all this stress and drama just to get laid.
Yep.
How can I? You could just get laid anyways by a girlfriend. Why the fuck? I can honestly say right now, I will never cheat in a relationship, because
Good.
I'm not gonna get into a relationship in the first place if this is not right now. Am I like, I wouldn't get into a relationship if this is not the person I want to be with. Like, for like, I mean, as long as it's not a perfect world, but as long as possible, I would hope forever. But
Hmm.
whatever, so I have no desire to cheat. I've already been there, and what comes out of it? Like there's zero good. You have this good girl, or if you have a bad girl, then you're fucked either way. But if you have a good girl and you're cheating on her, she literally there want to have sex with you as much as you want, and you're
Hmm.
cheating on her.
Terrible. Yeah.
Why are you in the fucking relationship? But
Hmm.
and it's like, why did you cheat on me? I don't. I'm a guy. There's no
Yeah.
reason. We just fuck. We just have sex. That's how stupid we are at that age. Like, there's no reason. Is there
No,
something I did?
I believe that a lot of it is animalistic, right? You know, when
I think so.
you read about animals and the lion can have sex, 300 times a day or whatever. And we're also mammals, so as a young man, right? You're thinking to yourself, I have to do this.
I
That's
have to,
it.
man.
I mean, it could be like a Friday night or Saturday night. It's like 7 o'clock. Half my boys aren't even showered. I'm like, come on, we gotta go. We gotta go find girls. We gotta go find girls.
Yeah,
I was like and they'd be like, man, you were like a man on a mission. You put a lot of work in to do this. Like, take a break. But I
good
didn't.
job.
But I
Yeah,
also will say that I was very forward, and most of the time it worked to my benefit. That I would tell all the girls, like, listen, I'm not trying to have a girlfriend. I'm the guy to have fun with. I'm very focused on my career, and that's it. And because of that, I had a lot less headaches. Now, sometimes you meet the ones that are like, yeah, yeah, no problem. You have sex, and they start showing up at your house.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
after I got all that out of my system, it almost was like a turnoff in a way to think about going back to that. Like, ugh, like
Mhm.
going back out to the clubs and meeting girls and going through all that and all that headache. Like that, then you
Yeah,
start really, really valuing the good ones when you can find them after that point.
yeah. Because at that point, you're just wasting good women when you can just be a single man and just have sex with a bunch of like sluts, right?
Yeah.
Why you're gonna tie down this really good woman just to fuck with her head, and now she passed her prime because you were with her for the last I don't know how long. It's just kind of fucked up. Like, what's the point in that, But at that point in your life, you just don't give a fuck. You're just like,
Oh.
I'm a guy. It's okay. I can do. I don't know. And then
We need
with
sluts though. Like I tell my
yeah,
girl, we talk about it all the time. I'm like, if there weren't so many sluts, it would be much different the way that we hold you guys on such a high regard
right,
because there are not that many of you good ones. There's a lot of sluts.
exactly.
So it makes you appreciate the good ones so much more.
I gotta send you one of the episodes where we had a debate. You're gonna definitely take my side on a debate, but it was about dating, and these guys are like, no, I'm only dating to go in a relationship, and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm looking for wifey material, but every girl is not wifey material. So if I
No.
meet you, you're not wifey material. I'm still gonna have sex with you, and they're like, why wouldn't you just look for somebody else? I'm like, I am. But meanwhile, I'm having sex. It's like, no, that's wasting time. I'm like, wasting time? I don't consider sex a waste. I consider it a great deed. So
Yeah.
they couldn't get that perspective. They're like, oh, you don't really want to go. I'm like, no, we don't get it. I do want a girlfriend. But I'm also in LA. I have to understand they're not all in LA. In
Yeah.
LA, I can't just say I want a girlfriend, so I'm just gonna cuff up the first thing. That doesn't make sense. If you're wifey material, then you're on the list. But if not, you can be on the list as far as, okay, well, this girl's cool, she's pretty, she's not wifey material, but we can hang out and have sex. There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
The LA scene is so different too. Like I actually lived out there. First I moved out to West Hollywood actually in 2011 for a girl that I lived with, and I hated it there. It was like the traffic was so bad every day, and I came from the Northeast, so it was such a like shock to me, you know. So I moved down to San Clemente, and San Clemente is like quiet, like beach town. It's so different, you know. So the women out there, that whole scene, that LA scene, is so different than like the New York, Boston, Connecticut scene. It's a whole like different vibe. So I was with one girl out there, and I was kind of miserable with where I was at, but I was doing a lot of fun stuff with bodybuilding, you know, going to Venice and doing all that shit. But when I moved down to Florida, Florida was way different because there was a lot of New York and Boston type of mentality, but you had all these Latinas from Cuba and DR and Colombia. So it was like starting back in my 20s all over.
Oh man, that's that. Wait, so where are you originally from?
So I was born in Danbury, Connecticut, and my family is from my mom's side of the family is from the Bronx, and
I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah, so you know, I actually spent a lot of time in the Bronx. Actually, my first real girlfriend was from Morris Parks. She lived off of Yates, and
my first girlfriend, Morris Park.
Really? Yeah, I love it over there, man.
Powerhouse gym.
It's a pain to park, but you got good gyms. So back then they had the powerhouse. They also had Dolphin Fitness was over there back in the day.
Yeah. PJ, you know the Bronx. Okay. PJ.
Yeah. So
we're going to get along, man.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of, I only went to Star Fitness a couple of times, but I went all around like I loved that powerhouse. Actually, the girl I dated used to work at that powerhouse. So I was in there a lot. But I love that scene. So I moved from Danbury, Connecticut, to West Hollywood. And I was like right over by, there was a gym, a tiny little gym called Bodybuilder Gym. And I don't even know if it's still there. And then there's a Gold down there in West Hollywood where all the gay guys go.
What's the gym called again?
There was a little gym back then called Bodybuilder Gym. It was a tiny little gym, and I lived right by that place. I don't know if it's still there, but I used to go about 3 miles to, there was a Gold's, and it was like where all the gay guys went. Like it was like the spot to be.
They still do.
That was a good gym too.
The one on Cole, right?
What's that?
The one on Cole Ave?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. You know the one. Everybody used to work out there. That's where all like the GHB and everything was. Like
for sure. Oh man, crazy world. I always felt like being born and raised in the East Coast, then moving to the West Coast is a cheat code. It's an official cheat. Every time.
They had a lot of problems with me when I moved out there, though. It was so weird. Like I'll tell you a great story. So I was going down to World's Gym in San Diego back in the day. I think it's still there. That gym was great, right? So
it is, yeah.
Derek Farnsworth had a little studio there where he did deep tissue massage. So I was seeing him. He was the best, man. He was amazing. So I was seeing him on Wednesdays, and I was training around it. And so I had my personal training business out of there, and I was killing it. Right? So one day, this guy, but nobody would ever talk to me, right? So one day, this guy sitting with me on the couch, and he was like bullshitting with me. And we're finished, and he's like, "Man, PJ, you know, you're a really nice guy." And he said it like in a surprised way, and I was like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Yeah, I don't know why all these guys don't like you, man. They're, you know," he's like, "It's strange to me." And I was like, "All these guys don't like me." I had no idea. And he was like, "Yeah, basically like all the 619 guys, this and that. They said that you came in here and stole all the clients." And I was like, "Listen, I haven't solicited any business here. but those guys all go home and take naps in the middle of the day. So I've been just hanging out here because I'm driving all the way down from San Clemente. So when people are here and they want a trainer, I just started training people and they switched over to me. It's not my
No,
fault that I'm here all day.
bro. Everything you're saying is insane. The everything you said so far, because when I first moved here, I didn't have any money saved up or anything. I moved here with a girlfriend, like you just said, from
Yeah.
the East Coast to, and then I got a job at LA Fitness. Same thing happened. Everybody's clients came to me. I didn't solicit anybody,
Me,
but
same with
like I
me.
said, but you take the New York hustle, and we have the
Mm-hmm.
physique. It just happens, and I can tell some of them didn't like me. The managers loved me because I'm keeping clients,
Yeah.
but some of the trainers, but they, like you said, they're lazy as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even in shape. Like what the, you know? So it's crazy how we're like polar opposites, but it's like it's like I'm hearing you tell a story that, like, even with the Morris Park, I'm like, what the fuck? This is
Yeah.
insane. It's insane. So it's just funny how the world works. But that's sometimes I feel like I'm not religious or anything, but sometimes I feel like people connect sometimes for a reason. You know what I'm saying? It's like, similar things, connect, because it happened really organically. I felt like, we
Yeah.
started like messaging and stuff, but crazy world, small world. So, okay, originally East Coast, you moved to, you moved straight from Connecticut to West Hollywood.
Yep. But I didn't
West
stay out
Hollywood,
there.
Sacramento.
I only stayed out there for about 8 months.
Mm.
Put away a lot of money, and I was thinking about actually going back to. I was going to move back to White Plains, New York, because I liked it out there, and I knew a lot of people out there. It was close to my family, and I was working for a company called Iron Mag Labs,
I
and
remember.
basically I had told my old at the time best friend Aaron Singerman. I was like, man, I'm thinking about just starting my own supplement company because I've got a lot of money saved and I'm tired of getting like paid little money to be the face of this company. And we're doing all this stuff in sales and everything else. And he was like, come to Florida. If you come to Florida, I'll help you. You'll blow up in Florida. I'm telling you, this is where it's at. It's not New York. It's not LA. It's South Florida. And I wound up, taking his advice on it. And I moved to Boca Raton and I left. It's crazy because so that year, right, 2012 was the last year I competed. I was 31 years old. Like I had told my parents when I was young, I'm going to go hard until I'm 30. And if I'm not one of the best in the world when I'm 30, I'll retire and put my money into a business, right?
Mhm.
And so when I was 30, I got hurt really, really bad. So I basically took that prep like 18 months until I was 31. Did USA's, had the worst placing I ever had. And I literally moved within 6 weeks after USA's to Boca, got in here right before September 1st, started Blackstone Labs September 1st. Like I had a vision for what I wanted to do. And, the company was a major success. So it was, Aaron was right getting me down here. And there's a lot of big, people don't even realize how many big companies are down here. BPI, BSN was down here when I was down here. Raw is like an hour north of here, Raw Revive. Redcon is probably the biggest company there is in Boca. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of it down here.
You're in Boca still right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a different time too. So, a lot, I guess some of the younger viewers maybe might not understand that back then it wasn't like now that everybody just starts a company, right?
Yeah.
Everybody that makes money starts a company that has back. And back then, you had your big company, like you just said, the BSNs, the
Mm-hmm.
Muscle Techs, who you didn't know the owner. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
pros knew the owner, but you didn't know the owner. It was some rich old guy,
Yep.
usually some shit like that. So what you guys did was completely different. Two young guys with a bodybuilder, actually start their own company and be very successful. So everybody was rooting for you. Like, I mean, I guess I don't know about the big companies were, but everybody, all the bodybuild competitors, everybody was like, wow, these guys are the shit. And you guys knew you were the shit. You got to be with
Yeah.
this shit, you know?
Because we were really, we want to just do everything ourselves, you know?
Mhm.
So people were telling us, like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And we were like, oh, fuck it, we're just going to do it and see what happens, you know? So, um, my second year, I was doing everything myself, right? Because Aaron was still working full time for RX Muscle. And he was like, I'm telling you, I'm helping line things up. Just keep sticking to what you're doing. I'm helping line things up. I'm gonna come over when the time is right, and we're gonna blow this up. So my first year, I was calling stores, packaging the packages, bringing them to the post office, answering all the emails, just sitting in a room, clacking away all day. But the money was slowly and steadily coming in. So even though I still had my coaching business, I was like, man, this is going to really happen.
Mhm.
And so somebody had sent me a book called The E-Myth Revisited, right? And the whole premise of the book is there's three types of individuals in the world. You've got technicians, managers, and entrepreneurs. There are very few people that are actually true visionary entrepreneurs. A lot of people are technicians. You're very good at something. So because of that, you think I'm going to start a business and make a lot of money, but you don't have the proper vision, right? So
Mhm.
in this book, the biggest thing that I took from the book was if I'm the visionary, I can't be doing all this other stuff. It's taking away from me getting to my goals. So I was like, hey, we got to hire somebody to help us, with the shipping. We got to start doing some stuff. So this is the I love telling people this story. So Aaron was like, I have a friend that I want you to hire. His name is Hilton McCullough, right?
Mhm.
He goes, he's Paris Hilton's cousin.
Okay.
And I was like, how do you know him? But Aaron always knew everybody, right? So he was like, here's the deal. He's turning 30 and his parents are cutting him off from his allowance. They said he
Mhm.
has to get a job. If he gets a job, they'll support what he wants to do. I'm like, what skills does he have? He's like, none. So I was like, tell him to come to my house. So he came to my house and I taught him basically how to process the orders, package them up, take them to the post office. And at the time, probably had like 20 to 25 orders a day. Took me like max 2 hours to do everything. I mean, he would come over my house at like 10 in the morning. It'd be like 4 o'clock. And I'd be like, bro, why are you not done yet? You've got to get to the post office. Come on. So finally, he actually quit, right? And I was so happy because I didn't want to like hurt his feelings. And Aaron loved him too. He was a really good kid. And he was like, listen, man, I just don't think this is for me. I'm gonna quit. And I was glad, right? So I see him like 6, 7 months later, and he comes over to me and he gives me a big hug. And he's like, PJ, I gotta thank you. He's like, man, like you and Aaron, you guys changed me so much. You changed my mindset. But if it wasn't for working for you and learning everything I learned and showing my parents, they wouldn't have supported me to start my new business. And I started my own supplement company, One Up Nutrition. And I look and they all have like
Oh
One Up
shit.
Nutrition shirts. And I was like, that's your company? And he was like, yeah, man, I took everything that I learned from you guys and I was started. And I was like, that is hilarious. Like, what an amazing story.
That's
That
fucking
was our
that's fucking
first
fire.
ever employee.
Yeah, yeah. That's fucking fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To go back to what you said about hiring people, man, it's hard to do though, right? Because I'm sure not that you're like a control freak, but I feel like you like things a certain, especially like if you're a visionary, you said you like things a certain way. So it's hard to hand it off to people. But if you don't, you will be stuck and you will not grow. And this is something that's always really bothered me. And I'm still fucking doing it. Like usually, like I'll put out content, my social media start growing. I get closer to the show, completely stop. And then it takes me months to get back going. I'm like, I have to hire somebody so this doesn't happen. And then it keeps happening. So my social media keeps doing this. And it's kind of doing it a little bit right now, but not as bad because the podcast is doing well. But I just have to fucking do it, bro.
You have to
I,
do it because your mindset will tell you not to, because you're going to say, No one's going to do it the way I want to do it. I know how to do it the best. I'm going to put the most care into it. Like with me, with customer service, what if they don't tell them the right things that I'm going to tell them? You know, they're not going to be able
Yeah.
to do it with me. As soon as I start, there are things that I knew I had to accept. Other people can at least do as good as me, if not more efficiently, like packaging the packages, getting a bookkeeper, things like that. Now all of a sudden I have all this extra time on my hand to think to myself, well, what
Think,
else could I do to make this better? And that's when the good ideas really started coming.
man, it's crazy. Man, I have a whole t-shirt line. I got t-shirts and boxes in every room. Bro, I haven't even finished the website. I even have the pictures on my camera. I still haven't extracted the picture. So now I'm just paying for this website and with t-shirts here that I can't sell because I haven't even, nobody even knows I have it. And
Yeah,
it's
you got to
like,
get an
what the,
assistant.
oh, man,
And
it's
it's
one of those
probably
things,
not
man.
hard to find too, like especially in the gym culture, being a big bodybuilder, people are going to look up to you. That's just the way it is. I found a lot of assistants over the years. Some were not good, some were good, that were just fans of bodybuilding and what I was doing and wanted to learn. So I kind of looked at it as like, okay, I'm going to mentor them and I'm going to get work out of it. But to them, they're looking at it as like this great mentorship opportunity to learn. So everybody wins.
It's funny you say that. I got the perfect candidate, literally the perfect candidate. It's a client of mine. So that's actually a great idea. Okay,
It's
yeah.
hard when you're doing a show too, because your brain starts to gas out and you're going to, imagine if you had somebody like we got to a point where I had multiple videographers, and one of them back in the beginning, we were just putting out so much content. I was like, I want you to just film everything that I do, and we'll just use the good stuff, So
yeah.
I'm like, no matter what, always have the camera around, and a lot of that extra footage we just turned into funny stuff just to throw out that we wouldn't have because we had it,
Yeah.
and at the time, like you said, there was big companies and there was like the smaller guys where you knew the guys. So when we started the company, Instagram was not even invented yet, right? So
Yeah.
when Instagram started, it was like, oh, let's just put our products out there. We didn't know what the hell was going to happen. And we basically started having our friends and people that liked our stuff putting the stuff out on Instagram. And if you think about it, that was like early level affiliate marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of who you have around you.
Yeah. So speaking of visionary, yeah, you and Aaron, some of the things you've done, like we talk about the company, like this is like the motto now. This is what retired bodybuilders or active bodybuilders do now. But another thing that this is probably something that anybody maybe under the I'm 31, but I was following the sport really young. Anybody under 30, how old are you, PJ?
43.
Oh wow, I didn't. I guess we're all getting older. Shit, it's like you're getting older. You forget that time doesn't stop for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yep.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
42.
but that's wild. But yeah, anybody under the age of 35 probably won't remember this. But you also started, like, really started the online coaching thing.
Yeah. It's
But like
funny that
seriously,
if you would like to give me that title, I'll gladly take it. I mean, it's a great compliment. So I'll tell you, I was working with Dave Palumbo, right? Like I love Dave, man. Like Dave was in some ways kind of like a father, like a mean father, but he was kind of like a father figure to me in some ways,
tough
right?
tough love. Fuck it.
He used to never give me compliments, but I wanted to impress him so bad, right? So um, he would I would send him so many questions, and he always thought I like asked too many questions, right? But I was just very curious. So he would send the answers to the questions, right? And I would ask these elaborate questions, and it would be like, no, yes, 20 more minutes of cardio, up your clen. And I'm like, I'm asking questions that you have to say more than yes or no to, right?
Mm.
So the girl that I was dating was actually the one from the Bronx. She's like, why do you email him and wait for him to tell you what to do every week? Like you're going to school for this, you have your own personal training business. Why don't you just do this yourself?
Mhm.
And I thought about it and I was like, damn, that's my that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start online coaching people. And so I think it was like 2007. I basically, because I was broke back then, but I was always going places with Dave for Species and at one point Muscular Development and then RX Muscle. So Dave would get me a flight and I would just crash in somebody's room and I would go up to girls at the shows. This was my plan. I love telling the story. So there was one big coach back then, Kim Odo. He coached everybody,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Kim Odo coached everybody. And so I would go up to the girls in the third call out in the figure division, right? And I would be like, listen, I think you have a lot of potential. Here's my business card. I'm a coach. This is what I do. We do everything over email. And they were like confused. They're like, how does that work? I'm like, you'll send me pictures and I'll send you what to do back. I'm like, we could also go on Skype, blah, blah, blah. I broke it down. So the first like handful of girls that I coached for free. And my point was, I'm going to prove to you how good I am that you're going to want to tell your friends. That's all I want. And so the first 5 girls that I coached, we all won their regional level shows, right? And I would make it an effort to just save my money, fly out to where they were competing so they'd have me there, they'd have that support. And dude, my business blew up after that. So when I stopped my coaching business, I had active like 250 clients. So that's all I did was just all day. And it was almost all women. But people were like, why do you train all women? I'm like, because there's so many of them. And there's only one guy really that coaches all of them. And they're getting a lot of like cookie cutter style. So to me, I was like, look, I'm 25, 26 years old. A lot of guys aren't going to want to listen to me. I'm just some meathead to them, or I'm their competition. So why not even get into that? Now, later on in my career, I started getting some really good male athletes that I trained and different guys that I trained for pro cards. I had like, the most famous one's probably Keon Pearson. I had a great, time coaching.
Yeah.
But
that's my boy, actually. I have a friend of mine.
He's amazing. Yeah. I did probably like 90% women. So back then, no one was really doing that back then. So now everybody has an online coaching business. So people always say to me, oh, are you going to get back into coaching since you can't do Blackstone? I'm like, I don't know if there's anybody left to coach now.
Man, it's like you playing 4D chess. You're so ahead of the game. It's weird, but it's like you didn't know any of this was going to happen, but you had the foresight. You had the foresight because I was going to ask you, why did you go woman? And that's literally the perfect answer. And I've seen so many people do it after you and have crazy businesses. And like you said, it's a lot of younger guys, right? And it's like this same guy. I didn't really know a lot of these female coaches until now that I'm like more in the sport. But I'm like, they're usually young guys that, like you said, most open body builders would be like, this young guy, I want to work with fucking Chris Aceto or something, something. So, but they have to create, but they're delivering. I'm not gonna lie, they're bringing these girls in, but still, for you to trust this guy, like it's different. And I noticed that the girls are loyal. Right now, if you fuck up, they'll get mad at you, but they'll go tell their friends, hey, this guy, and all their friends will come, So I had a brief period where I was training mostly females as well, and I noticed how they would refer each other, and they'll listen. They're not gonna, how come I need more training? You know how the guys are, or the egos.
Man, girls are. When it comes to like getting into contest prep with women, they will go so deep into the pain and suffering zone that most guys would never want to do. And I will tell you, I used to bring a lot of girls to see Steve Weinberger, right? And I love Steve Weinberger. He was just an awesome dude to be around. And women's physique division hadn't started yet, right? And I'd bring these figure girls in that were nasty. And he would be like, too hard, too much delt, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, what? And he'd be like, she's amazing, but this is just not what we want. So as soon as the women's physique division opened, I started just dominating for those first 2 years. Like I had a period where between women's physique and figure, I turned out like 18 pros in like a 2-year period, right? I was just killing it. And then when I started coaching bikini girls because the first year of bikini was kind of like, it was like Hawaiian chocolate, right? But I was like, I'm going to bring these bikini girls in like really dry. And then that was when the bikini girls started getting really dry. And so I was actually having a lot of fun because I had all these figure girls that were too much, right? So I started pushing them into women's physique. Then I had some girls that were like, I just want to get jacked. And I heard you're the guy that's like safe to do it with. So I loved training female bodybuilders because they'll do anything. They always want to do more. But they, when you know how to manage the chemistry the right way, their mindset, man, you could take a women's physique or a female bodybuilder and get them so fucking peeled, excuse my language, because they will go that extra lever no matter what. So I was very passionate about doing that at that phase in my life. It was a fun time for me. Those were good years for me.
If a woman really wants something and they're locked in, they don't stop. And that's why I watch all these murder mysteries and shit. These girls, if they want something bad enough, they'll fucking kill you to get it. Like women are a whole different breed. And yeah, I've had female clients do shit that my male clients, I know they've never done. And even though I told them to do it, they wouldn't do it. I've had a bikini girl do 3 hours of cardio, 7 days a week, and she got into shape. Not ideal. You know, a lot of it was her fault. But guess what? She fucking did it. And that's all that matters. You know what I'm saying? But PJ, you really got to do some kind of like mentorship program or some shit like that, because you have a lot of foresight and a lot of knowledge and experience that I think is very, really valuable. I don't know how you would use it. I don't know how you would. I mean, you would probably figure out because you're the guy with the vision. You know.
I have a lot of ideas now. And what's interesting is I have a lot of things that I want to do, that I love to do, that I don't know how to make them work all together yet. Because so with Blackstone, basically everything I did with the marketing of Blackstone, thank you for wearing that, by the way, especially since I'm not allowed to. I respect that. Appreciate that. So I basically was like, man, I want to teach people about all the stuff that I love and see what they think about it. And as I learned new things and started getting passionate about new things, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep putting this out. So I had this phase where I was very sick and the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with me, right? I had to get 6 or 7 iron transfusions one year. My blood pressure kept getting really low. And finally I got diagnosed with a chronic active Epstein-Barr, and I just kept on getting mono, right? So this guy, Dr. Zano, who's also a pro bodybuilder, he's a chiropractor, very smart guy. He was like, look, I know how to treat that. I know what you got to do. And I see that you're already doing IVs and whatnot. And he gave me this protocol of major high dose vitamin C therapy. So I was giving myself IVs, which people think is crazy, right? But in my mind, I was like, heroin addicts can do it, then I can figure out how to do it for my own health. And so I watched a few videos. I had a buddy who was a doctor that got me all the stuff. And so I would just get my thing in the vein, tape it up. And I was doing 50 grams of vitamin C followed by 1,000 milligrams of glutathione. And I bought an ozone therapy machine. And I got better. After everything the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, that made me better. And I did a bunch of research on this place called the Hilo Institute, where they're treating cancer and infectious disease with this same protocol. And I'm like, if they're trying it out there and it's working in the UK, I'm doing this for myself. So as I would do these things, I'd be like, I got to put these videos out, So people are like, man, I don't know if you can put videos out of your giving yourself IVs and this and that. So I had like taken some of them down and edited those parts out. But like even now, I have ideas of things that I want to share. But my platform was always Blackstone Labs. So on one hand, people say Blackstone Labs was always like PJ Braun Labs, right? But if the government says PJ Braun and Blackstone Labs can't be together, then in a way, it's almost like, okay, they took my platform away from me, which isn't really true, right? I can do stuff on social media. I'm just used to doing it in that setting all the time.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's something that doesn't usually happen. But now that you mention it, you've always been the face of Blackstone, right? With all due respect here, you've had some really good athletes too, very
Yeah.
popular, big name athletes. But it was always you. Like even if I would see a video showing one of these athletes, I'd be like, "Eh." But if it was your video, then I would click it. It's strange. I don't know why. Because I don't think that's how you wanted it to be. I think most people would want their athletes to shine.
Yeah.
But it was just synonymous with P. Not so much Aaron actually as much as PJ. You know what I'm saying? But I remember, speaking of being like a visionary, there's something you did that I can't believe nobody else thought of or did before, during, or after that, which I almost don't want to say it because I don't want people to copy it. But
I already know what you're talking about. So, because no one
bro,
else has done that.
that was my favorite shit ever. Why was it so good? I don't know. It was basically like a reality show, right? It was basically a reality show. Basically, I guess what at the warehouse at the
Yeah.
office.
So I had married a WWE superstar, right? Her
Mhm.
wrestling name was Caitlin,
I remember.
and they were doing the WWE Divas reality show and whatnot. And so since she was the champion, she had signed a thing to not be on the reality show. And I was like, let's make our own reality show. Reality shows are what's hot now. So I found a kid. It actually took me like 3 videographers to get it right,
It's
because
hard to get right.
it's tough because they'll stop recording and I'd be like, no, record everything, even if you see us arguing and whatnot. You know what I mean? So um, we called it Beauty and Braun. And basically what we did was we'd film everything for a week and then chop it up. And she and I would basically speak over it about what was going on. And man, people loved that shit. They loved
Yeah.
it.
You gotta, bro. If you don't bring that back in some kind of way with whether it's this company or a new company, I'm gonna steal that shit, bro.
The
Because
thing,
it's too good of an idea.
steal it, steal it. So we had, yeah, back then, people don't realize how crazy it was back then, because Aaron and I had Blackstone, right? But we also had a bunch of other things going on. So we had a monstrous warehouse. And I had started a clothing line with my ex-wife called Celestial Bodies. We
I
literally
remember.
invented the booty scrunch, right?
I
We,
remember.
we had a patent
Another
pending
thing.
on it. Yeah. So we had that running out of there. We also started a company with Kai Green called Dynamic Muscle. And so I formulated the products, and Aaron was running the sales, and Kai was the face. So we had that going on in there too. We also had Prime Nutrition, which was like our mainstream brand, right? And on top of that, we helped Rob and Daniel and Bailey formulate Onward, which was their first product. So we had all of this going on in our building, all those other products. It was crazy. So there was always people coming through and different, fitness celebrities and whatnot coming through. So it was a perfect setting to do all that stuff.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea any supplement brand has done. But yeah, you gotta bring that back to some capacity. It was the best thing to watch. It was really fucking entertaining. But I would imagine it would be hard. I guess if I was to try to do that, I would try to find somebody who films reality shows
Yeah.
to
It's
kind of
it's
get
much
that.
different filming like a workout than actually filming something that's going to be entertaining like TV, right? Because I
Right.
had I had a really good, well, I've had Joe Reiser, who's outstanding, but I had a kid named Eric Young, right? And I basically molded him to be my everyday in the gym guy. I taught him about all the right angles, and and he could whip up videos. So we put out so much training content, but it was because I was like, film it like this, do this, do this, do this. When it comes to the like reality stuff, these guys that we had that were really clever, they would set up a camera that was just sitting in one area that they knew would just be a hotspot. and then they'd have it sped up so you could see everything that was going on, like under the elapsed time. Like I wouldn't have thought to do stuff like that, or they would create little things that are outside the norm to make it kind of more drama going on. Like, hey, we're going to have like whatever celebrity who's fighting with her boyfriend coming in this week, and she wants to talk to, your ex-wife, whatever. So we actually kind of like almost like enhanced it to make it more cool like that.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. That was a good one. There's so many angles I could take the convo. I definitely have to have you on a handful of times, especially when I'm not dieting and I have a better personality. But yeah, so many angles we can go with this: the coaching, the supplement, the gel experience, the whole nine. But I did want to ask you: is the supplement industry and bodybuilding something you want to stay in? Stay in? Okay.
I mean, I love bodybuilding. I love supplements. I started taking supplements when I was 12 years old. Like I just got hooked right away. I grabbed the magazines. Back then, I'm going back to like 1992, 1993. It was like EAS. Phosphagen, HP, just regular creatine monohydrate. But man, I was taking creatine summer after 8th grade. I was taking creatine because I wanted to get bigger for football. And I just thought it was all so fascinating. Like, okay, if I take this is going to happen. I got to know for myself. And I kept journals of everything back then. So as I got older, I realized I have okay genetics, but that's it. Right. So I was like, I'm going to have to kill myself in the gym. And I'm cool with that because that's the fun part for me. I'm going to probably have to diet really hard, which is okay. I'm into the work. I'm going to have to learn everything there is to learn about the anabolics and the steroids. That's fine. I'm fascinated with it. But there's this whole other category now. Here's the legal stuff that if I learn how to do this, it's going to enhance my physique, enhance my life. I want to know everything there is to know about it. So it's endless what you can learn. Man, I used to just read. I would, back then I would go online and I would just type into Google like BCAAs and just find everything I could read back then just to educate myself. My first job in college was managing a GNC, and I would just sit and read every label, and then I'd go to we had this little dictionary just because I was so passionate about that. So obviously there's a lot more data and science that's changed the game since then, and I have more to learn. So if you love something and you're always learning from it, how could you stop? I can't.
It's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah. Another thing I want to ask you is that you look back at the past 43 years, would you say you have any regrets at all? Or would you say, is there anything that you would change? If barring it would make you a complete different person or anything like that, is there anything that you would have done differently in your life in any way, shape, or form?
Yes. So I would, from a training standpoint, I say this all the time. If I could go back in time, my first 10 years of natural, drug-free, balls out training, I would have not trained so heavy so often because I hurt myself so bad so many times that because of the majority of injuries that I had, football also and powerlifting, I beat myself up. But, by the time I was 19, I had already dislocated both my shoulders multiple times and had reconstructive surgery on this bicep, right? So that was a major one, the reconstruction, getting 2 screws put in there because I competed as a power lifter, and it was my last deadlift of the meet. Young, natural kid, constantly lifting heavy. I'm pulling 550 and my bicep just rips right off the bone. And so when I look back at it, that was all just ego. Like, I've got to lift the heaviest. Like, I have to kill myself in the gym. I wouldn't have done the powerlifting. I would have really probably pulled out a lot of the maxing out. I used to max out on my squat, bench, and deadlift every week just because I wanted to see where I was at. So I would have changed that about my training for sure. About my personal life, I rushed into my marriage for sure because kind of like what we talked about earlier, I felt like, okay, I've already had sex with friggin' 100 girls, whatever, right? I'm not fulfilled. I have a very successful business. I have a house. I have all these things, but I have nobody to share it with. I need to get married. I need to start, having kids, having a future. So I aggressively went after. Basically, I look at it now almost in a way that I went after the girl that wasn't attainable, and in many ways that goes back to having a big ego. I was going to be the guy that got her,
Yeah.
and the thing is, I was so focused on showing her why she should want to be married to me. Right? I'm going to give you all these things. I'm going to give you this great life, but I was forcing it. And in the end, we were only married for 18 months. So outside of that, though, man, people say, like, when I got out of prison, they were like, so looking back now, was the 2 years worth it? And I'm like, you can't ask me that because the product that I was selling wasn't illegal. So I can't say that I was sneaking around to break the law. And yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't worth it because I wasn't knowingly breaking the law. Like, if you're selling cocaine, man, I'm making this money,
Yeah.
but there's a good chance I'm going to get caught, and I know the rules. With me, there wasn't that mindset because I knew I wasn't breaking the law. So I can't say that I would have done any of that differently. Um, I would have liked to handle the situation with my old partner, Aaron, differently because when we split up, I had a lot of fire and anger because I felt betrayed by him at the time. And I also had another partner who was only with us for a short amount of time, influencing me, and I let him influence me, saying, "You're the guy, you got to get rid of him. He screwed you over." Da, da, da. I think that if the mindset that I have now, if I went back in time, he and I would have worked it out, and there never even would have been a Redcon, or if there was, it maybe would have had a different name, or we would have done it all with Blackstone. I wouldn't have forced that out because we were best friends for 10 years. Like, it's a shame to go from best friends to suing each other over multiple things, hating each other, putting stuff out on social media. So I would have handled that situation a lot differently.
Yeah, that's to be honest, like that's something like I don't like to see that kind of stuff, you know. I I know the general public, they love drama and it gets the juices going, but it honestly bothers me when I see two people who I believe for I don't believe in good and bad people. I believe we all just people, we just make choices, right? But people are at least I perceive to be good people kind of go at it, and it's disagreements.
Yeah.
It's not even about right or wrong. Like that's perspective. Right or wrong doesn't really exist. It's perspective. Is it wrong to kill somebody? But how about if you're protecting a baby? Then if it's so wrong, it's just
Yeah.
perspective, you know. So that part it was kind of sad to see, but I like that you're at a point in your life where you can see it that way and you don't have that anger. You know, anger is for I feel like that anger and jealousy and all these feelings it's for the young. It's for the
Mm-hmm.
young. When you're wise, you're not fueled by that anymore. You know, and it looks like you've gained like 10 years of wisdom in the last 2 years in prison,
Yeah,
which is kind of
I really feel it, and it sounds cliche or it sounds like whatever you want to say it, but prison wound up being a blessing for me because I would have carried around a lot of anger for too long, and that anger, that stress, man. Like, people are like, "Oh my God," they're like, "You look young and healthy." I'm like, "It's probably just because I'm not stressed out anymore."
yeah.
It's just no way to live. It really isn't.
No. The way I see it, man, like I said about good and bad, I don't believe in that. All the bad shit that happened that we sit there and say, why the fuck did this happen to me? My life is over. Fucking a couple of years later, you understand exactly why it happened, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes you so much better. Like it could be the worst thing. It could be something so bad, like you literally almost died. It
Yep.
could be the worst experience of your life, and 2 years later, you're like, that made me such a better person. I'm saying that from experience. I actually almost died in 2019. And at the time, it was the worst thing ever. And honestly, now I appreciate, imagine saying that, sitting there and say, I appreciate going to jail. I appreciate
How did you
almost
almost
dying.
die?
Pneumonia, believe it or not. So I have, when I was born, I had a bronchitis, really bad episode, and I almost died as a baby. And that continued on as asthma. So I have, what do you call it? Respiratory issues. So
Mhm.
if I even get a common cold, you would think I was dying. It's so bad. Like
Terrible.
I can't breathe.
Have
I
you
can't.
seen the O2 trainer?
No.
I think I'm gonna get it. It's only like $50. So Bass Rutten,
Mm.
who retired, he was a UFC champ in the 90s. I saw him on Joe Rogan talking about it, right? They actually have medical studies behind it that it can reverse asthma, it can cure all kinds of lung, and it's basically this little device that you train yourself to breathe properly in. It
Mhm.
it it, it trains the breathing muscles the right way so they expand and more air can get into your lungs. And
Oh.
it's incredible. I'll send you a link for it because I think I'm gonna buy it anyway, just because why wouldn't I want healthier lungs because it affects your cardiovascular and everything else. So um, basically it's 30 minutes a day, but you breathe through this thing and it's difficult, but it strengthens all those muscles that allow more oxygen to get into your lungs. And they actually have medical studies that show it reverses asthma, COPD, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in the hospital, they wouldn't let me leave until I can hit a certain level. I don't know what the thing is called, but you have to like breathe into it, blow into it, and it reaches a certain level. And the first day, I'm like, it's like barely budges. I'm like, it felt like telling me, "Hey, you have to climb fucking Kilimanjaro." It was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do it. And then, like you
Okay.
said, you just get your lungs get better and stronger. And then I was just killing it, after that. But yeah, back to think like these, you could have a loved one pass away. You're like, why me? Why? And then it makes sense. You're like, wow, or like a divorce or a bad breakup, and it's the worst thing ever. And then you're like, wow, I'm so much better off now because of that bad thing happened to me.
Yeah.
So that's not how life works. It's all to teach you a lesson. It's all to make you a better person. And without that, you probably would. If these bad things didn't happen to us, we'll probably be shitheads.
Yeah.
We'll literally
You
probably be
have to learn.
shitheads.
You have to always learn. The more times you fail, the more mistakes, it's the more opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. As long as you're a decent hearted person, I believe most people are decent hearted people. I believe it's usually just trauma that makes
Mhm.
people kind of comes out.
Yeah.
We're all doing the best with the tools we have. We're just lucky enough that we weren't born to a house where our mom is a crackhead and our dad is
Yep.
beating, so we all have some privileges. I didn't have to go through that. If you go through that, I don't know what kind of man that makes you. So I can't really judge you because I didn't have that experience, but PJ, because I'm dieting, I I gotta eat and do a shit ton
Yeah,
of
man, you
cardio.
you did for to be only a couple weeks out, man. You're sharp right now. I don't know if you had an energy drink or something before we did this, but
Oh,
I
we got
thought
some
you
secrets.
killed it.
Oh, we got some secrets. We got some Adderall in there. We got some kratom in there
Kratom will do
because
it for you. Yeah. Mhm.
because without that, literally, I'll wake up like this. I can't even talk. I can't even put on my fucking house shoes. I'm like, no way I'm putting on my house shoes. I'm just
Yeah.
walking barefoot. It's crazy. But then eventually, you come back to life.
How much cardio are you doing?
So right now on the program is an hour and a half, but hit. And then
Oh wow,
honestly,
yeah, that's hard.
yeah. And I got so burnt out, I couldn't keep the pace. So I'm like, fuck. I'm doing like medium intensity. So I'm like, fuck it. So I'll do 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then days where I'm really dead, where I'm like hanging on, I'll do three. Because if I
Mhm.
can't keep the intensity high, I'll have to do more. At least that's
Yep.
my logic.
Mhm.
So anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours of cardio is what
Man,
I'm doing.
there was a year. See, I I liked to push myself, right? But there was a year, people asked me the hardest year for me. Palumbo, it was like he wanted me to be, that Palumbo level of peeled, right? And I did everything that he said to a T, and he knew it.
Mhm.
So I got up to, so I was about a month out, right? And I was doing 2 hours of cardio a day. We were rotating in the protein veggie days. And I had gone and shot this video. And Weinberger was like, yeah, he's ripped, but he's flat. When are you going to fill him out? And Dave was like, I'm going to fill him out. I'm going to fill him out. So we went to there. Dave thought my glutes were just not tight enough. So I went for 13 straight days. I'll never forget this. So he had already put my cardio at 3 hours, right? So I was doing an hour, an hour, an hour split up like that. But my meals for 13 days were, I had 3 meals were just 2 scoops of his protein and water. And then the other 3 meals were 8 ounces of tilapia and 8 asparagus spears, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so after the 13 days of that and the 3 hours of cardio, I went to see him at the WWE headquarters because he was meeting with Triple H. And so I waited outside for him to come out. And we went to this diner and he's like, go into the bathroom. So I go into the bathroom and I go to like take off my shirt and he goes, I don't care about that. Turn around and take your pants down.
Glutes, yeah.
I go in, I take my pants down, and Dave's like pinching my glute. And this guy comes into the bathroom and he's like, oh my God, oh my God. And Dave's like, no, 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 it's nothing like that. And I'm just sitting there, I'm exhausted. And he goes, you can put the fats back in tomorrow. Man, I'm telling you, when I was driving home in the car, just knowing that that was my last day of that, I just started crying.
100, bro.
I just started crying because you get real emotional when you're close to a show. I was like, it's finally done,
bro. You haven't dieted or got into real shape if you haven't had a random cry.
Yeah,
you're gonna get those random cries. The other day it happened to me. It was so I forgot what it was. I saw. I think with the pictures, something I saw, and I started crying. I was like, "Holy fuck, what the fuck is?" But you're at a really like fragile state, Yep. There's a video of Kai talking about something and like a week out, he just starts crying. That's when you know your shit.
I used to have these long conversations with Evan Centopani, right, on the phone when he was in prep and when I was in prep, because Evan is very like philosophical. And we would have these deep ass conversations where I would get off the phone and I'd be like really like choked up. Like we'd be so deep into like life, the shit that we were talking about, that I would think back to those moments like, man, like it's crazy where your mind goes, right? It's a different mindset when you're in like the trenches that deep like that.
Oh, completely different one. I had a conversation with my brother-in-law a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, hey, I felt like there's been like a shift in your mentality. Did something change? I was like, it's just the diet. When I'm done with the diet, I'll be back to normal, because I was getting super deep, and he's like, oh, I never heard that from you. I'm like, holy fuck, But yeah, it definitely happens. But it's like we talk about good things and bad things happening. Prep is so devastating that on the other side, I appreciate everything so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, just going to the movies, traveling, having a bite of fucking bagel. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best shit ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of almost every prep I've had, at 4 weeks out, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Literally every single one. But then at like a week out, I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna keep doing it. But every time I hit a breaking point, like, this is so stupid. Like, I'm doing all this cardio for what? You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. But if nothing else, that shit builds character like a motherfucker.
Do you like the stage part of it?
I didn't at all, literally, until like a couple years ago.
Okay.
I just like being big and strong as fuck and getting like 8 weeks out condition.
Yeah.
Everything after like 6 weeks out, I hated it. I fucking hated cardio. I hated tan. I hated shaving. I hated fucking paying the money to compete. I hated all of it until I became good on stage to the point that people are like, oh, this guy can do something. Yeah. Then I had to just shift the way I was thinking, and it wasn't like just joy. I had to find a different kind of joy, the joy of winning instead of the joy of how this feels. So off season, I love bodybuilding for the feel. I get to enjoy it for it. I'll train how I want. I don't care about the science. I don't care. I'll train how what's fun to me. When I'm in contest prep, it's not about fun anymore. Even my form changes. I'm doing perfect form and all that. So I just had to look at it different. And now I'm learning to enjoy it. But generally, the reason I got into the sport, the stage part and being lean is not.
Yeah, I always like to hear people's perspective on that because it's so different from different people, right? Like you got guys that love being on stage. They just love it. And they'll do a million shows. You know what I mean? So they're like, I just love being on stage. See, I never had that. I did like to guest pose. Like I did a lot of guest poses. Back then, there was no social media. So to see bodybuilders, we were guest posing everywhere. So I got to guest pose Costa Rica, Colombia, all over the place. And that to me was fun because you could be 4 or 5 weeks out condition and it was great. But I saw this interview and Hunter Labrada said it really well, right? His dad loved the artistic part of posing, right? His dad loved all that, where he isn't into that. Like he's going to nail his poses, his, the way he needs to, his mandatories. But for him, the passion is looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, okay, this sucks. I got a year to make it better. And that process. So for me, I loved that process. Like I wrote down everything that I did for years and I tried all kinds of different workouts. I tried like Mike Metzer at high intensity training for a while. Then I read this book on Bulgarian powerlifting. I did that for a while. I went in giant sets. I just wanted to do everything and I wanted to just record what happened. It was fun for me. But the stage part, I always felt like it's over so fast, right?
Yeah.
All of that. Even like there was a show where I won the overall and I was mad because I looked so much better the day before. And everyone was like, you're not even happy. And I was like, man, I looked so much better yesterday.
That's my biggest issue with the stage, especially guys like me and you who have to diet really hard and like glute chase. Like I'm chasing glutes all prep.
You too, always. Yep.
So what happens is that look at like I was literally just looking through pictures. That look at like 270, 265, where I have no glutes, but everything else is in shape and it's round and full and bubbly. That look is like so fun in the training and I'm strong and oh my God, but then the look that wins the shows on stage that the judges want from me is not my best look. It's not aesthetically, it's not my best look. It's like a shriveled up version that needs to be shriveled up just to win. And it's like, it's weird because if I was to come how I like how I look, I would get like second call out because they'll be like, this guy's fat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But you have deep insertions and very round muscles. So as you get flatter, I see from your photos that you maintain that roundness. Like for me, when I would get flatter, I would lose the roundness. So I basically had to go down extra far and then start coming back up to look the way I wanted to look.
Yeah, low key, that will be kind of a disaster because at least like for me, I'm talking more of a feeling. But if I'm being honest, if I look at the pictures, I'm still round. Like people say you're full. I'm like, I'm not full once in prep. I'm always depleted. But full and round is two different things. So, but at least
totally different things. Yeah.
But at least because I have the roundness, no matter how flat I am, there's still some pop. But if like you said you are, if you lose that, honestly, I probably wouldn't compete. I'll be like, fuck this. Like, which is funny because I used to think, how is PJ not a pro? Because I see you in certain phases when you are round and full. The issue is for you to get the look they want, condition-wise in the glutes, you have to lose that, right? So then it's like, fuck,
I was coming down so far, right? So I everybody always talks about there's this guest posing video of me and Juan Morel. I think it's the year either he won his pro card at the show after that or it was the show right after that, right? So I remember the day well. We were 4 weeks out. We were in Brooklyn and we both were 244 pounds, right? And
Yeah.
everyone was like, yo, how the fuck, why are you coming down to heavyweight? And I'm like, I gotta come down to get my glutes to look right. It's just, I gotta come down. And if you see how I looked in that video, like I had to pull 20 pounds off that. But the 20 pounds that I pulled off, it basically, I sacrificed so much quality size just to get my glutes to look right that I
Mm.
remember Mannion after nationals senior, he was like, what did you do? He said it just like that too. My heart was broken. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I just saw you in Pittsburgh. You look amazing. He was like, you look small now. He was like, what are you doing to yourself? And I was just like, I was so mentally, I was so like focused on trying to get that look the right way. Um, you know, I also was, I had Dave Palumbo was always in my head, even when I wasn't working with him. He was so focused on, he was like, you're not the prettiest looking guy. So you got to be bigger and drier and harder than everyone else. So I just kept trying to be the driest, hardest guy. And if I hit it, like some of my photos that I have that I love are literally from the days after nationals where I was like, all right, I'm gonna go eat a burger and fries and just keep on eating and drinking water. And by the time you get to the photo shoot, everything is crazy again, but your glutes are gonna be soft. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know.
It's crazy. Yeah, honestly, man, like Dave is right though, because I, I, I've tried the other one. Like, okay, this is the look I like. My glutes aren't in, but I like that, and I play second call out. You know, I think the only way you could probably get away with that is if you were like young Ramy and you're like 300 pounds on stage
Yeah.
with softer glutes. It's like, well, you have a small waist and you're 300 pounds. Fuck it, But anything other than that, they would. I've had guys beat me. Shit, at the Cal, I won the supers. I lost to the heavyweight. With all due respect, he was like he didn't have any muscle on his body, but he was
Mm-hmm.
peeled, no muscle. So in
Yeah.
my head, I didn't even look at him. I'm like, there's no way. This is like there's nothing there. And I was in shape. I wasn't peeled, but I was in shape. I was like, it's not. And he beat me. I was like, what the fuck? So you're telling me I could have just lost all my muscle and come in dry and But I don't know.
It's the way that the sport has gone. The most important conditioned muscle to have is glutes. That's just the way it is. If you don't have striated ripped glutes, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
It really is. People will say, oh, is it arms, is it chest, is it legs? I'm like, man, I see guys that don't have good arms do great in bodybuilding because everything else is good and they got really good glutes.
That's it.
They want to have those peeled glutes. It's crazy. It's that's just how it is. And there are guys, and this is not a negative because he is my brother, but there are guys that can get their glutes striated really, really easily without having to suffer. And Guy Cisternino, he has all year round, bro. Like we would be dining for shows, right? And he would be like, how are your abs so shredded like 8 weeks out? And he would still have like a little bit of a belly. Mm-hmm. But he would take his pants down and his glutes were like, and I'm like, bro, I would trade for that any day of the week, And now it's not to say he didn't have to suffer because he suffered for everything else. You know what I mean? But the kid just had like square, crazy ass developed shredded glutes all the time. It used to drive me crazy.
Well, because it gives you a huge advantage, of more leeway to play with. Yep. Derek Lunsford had shredded glutes off season, so basically, once they start stripping off fat, they could play with it. Like, okay, we can bring you in 10 pounds fuller, and you're still gonna look peeled because your glutes are in. Whereas for us, you can't do that. You have to go like 10 pounds lighter. So it gives you a lot more leeway to come in super big and full. Even like a Phil Heath. Phil was peeled everywhere, but his glutes were so peeled that there were a few years where he was so fucking bursting full. I'm like, how is he not spilled over? Because his glutes are peeled.
Glutes are nasty, yeah.
Yeah, so you will be there with years where he didn't have the crazy chest striations and shoulder striations, but who gives a fuck? The guy is round as fuck with shredded glutes, and it's like give him the title. And I agree, he won every fucking year, and I agree that he won, but it's a huge advantage. Huge
Do you
advantage.
have a favorite Olympia?
Ooh, as a whole, or like
Just
the
like,
champion.
is there a Mr. Olympia that to you is the greatest Mr. Olympia?
Like a bodybuilder in particular.
Yeah.
I see. I grew up. Ronnie really got me watching the sport, but I gotta say, I still believe the best bodybuilder. I believe this is the unpopular opinion. I believe it's Phil Heath personally.
So Phil is incredible. To me, obviously they're all great, right? Um, as a fan, what Jay did was incredible. But
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people in person, right? Over the years. So I went to my first bodybuilding show in 1999, Night of Champions in New York City, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never to this day seen anyone look like Ronnie Coleman. Like to
Mm-hmm.
me, he's just another level, man. And like whether you liked his physique or not, I just never saw anyone that when he walked out on the stage, if you looked at everybody, everyone just started laughing
Yeah,
because
he
they were
honestly,
like,
man.
what the hell is that? You know what I mean? The skin
Yeah,
so thin, the crazy, crazy X frame. Like, so he's just on another level for me. Like that to me, I was like, man, that is insane that a person could be like that, you know? But I love Phil, like I love Jay. Um, it's different now. I hate people always think that we need to compare like the 90s bodybuilders to today's guys. And I am more of a fan of the 90s look. I just
yeah,
am. But there are great guys like Hottie, man. The fact that he could have that much muscle on that frame is crazy. That much
same.
crazy pride and muscle. And now Derek and these guys are, you know, people are like, man, you're so tall. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's just they're short. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm 5'11. That's not tall. You know what I mean? Like, but these
yeah,
guys are like 5'5" with so much muscle. It's insane.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we're all a huge fan of the 90s. I mean, because we all grew up watching the 90s. So I think we all prefer their physiques. But like, yeah, the better or worse thing, that's an irrelevant argument. That's like you could say that about basketball and NFL.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
It's just different.
devolved. Mhm.
Yeah, it's just different. It's like Shaq is like, well, I'm 7 foot. Why would I be shooting 3 pointers? I'm gonna just dunk on everybody. And then, but
Yeah.
you could say, well, Giannis dunks on everybody, but now he's shooting fadeaway. It's just
Mhm.
different, But different isn't better or worse. Like Derek's physique, it's so different from the '90s guy. I wouldn't say it's better or worse. It's just different, But
Different.
everybody's just. I think they're all fucking freaks, man. I think they're
Yeah.
all fucking amazing, and it's different. You got to see it in person, like you said with Ronnie, to really get the idea. I remember when Ramy started blowing up, and they're like, "Oh, he's the biggest body," but I was like, "I seen Kai in person.
Eyes
Ramy is,
crazy. Yeah. Mhm.
Ramy was heavier than him on a scale, but more muscular. Man, Kai at his prime." I've never seen anybody. I haven't seen Ronnie, but I haven't seen anybody more muscular than that. He was like obese with muscle. It
Yep.
was.
We did this thing at bodybuilding.com when we were launching Kai's brand, and he was wearing these white, like see-through, like leggings, basically, right? And he was doing legs in bodybuilding.com's gym, and you could see all the veins and separation through his legs. And Kai's legs were so crazy big and separated. Like it's just insane that somebody could have that much muscle.
It doesn't make any sense. But PJ, I gotta head out.
I know you got to eat.
We definitely, well, obviously, we're gonna have you back on. I wanted to wait after my show to have you on, so I'm sharper. But on a one-on-one setting, I know I could do. I don't know if I could have done it with four other guys on it. My
Okay.
brain kind of goes numb after that. So I wanted to get you on one-on-one,
Thank you.
and now we could throw you in with a couple of guys. Not too. I don't want to do too many guys, but with a couple of guys to get more banter and some more talking about current events and stuff. But I appreciate you, man. You're a fucking legend. I'm glad you're out. You seem to be in a really good headspace, and I know you're gonna bounce back and be 10 times more successful because that's just the kind of person you are, man.
Oh man, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun, man. I will come back anytime you want. Let me know. I had a great time.
Perfect, bro. All right, PJ, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man. God bless you, brother.